The evening air in Madrid carried the familiar sounds of the city winding down, as Isabella Martinez sat on her usual corner near Plaza Mayor, wrapped in a thin blanket and quietly asking passers-by for spare change. At 55 years old, Isabella had been living on the streets for 2 years after a series of devastating events had stripped away everything she had once taken for granted: her job, her apartment, her savings, and ultimately her dignity. She had worked as a seamstress for over 20 years before the textile factory where she was employed closed down and moved operations overseas, leaving her without income and few prospects for employment at her age. What followed was a cascade of financial problems that led to eviction, exhaustion of her small savings, and eventually life on the streets of the city where she had been born and raised. Isabella maintained her self-respect despite her circumstances, always dressing as neatly as possible with the limited clothing she possessed and speaking politely to everyone who passed by. She never demanded money or became aggressive with people who ignored her. Instead, she would simply say, "Que Dios le bendiga," may God bless you, whether they helped her or not. Her gentle demeanor and obvious dignity had earned her recognition from some of the regular foot traffic in the area, and a few kind souls would occasionally bring her food or small amounts of money to help her survive. On this particular evening in late October, Isabella noticed a young man walking slowly along the plaza, seeming to observe the various street performers and vendors who made their living in the tourist area. He was dressed casually in dark jeans, a simple black jacket, and a baseball cap pulled low over his face, and he moved with the confident stride of someone who was comfortable in any environment. What struck Isabella was that unlike most tourists or locals who walked through the plaza with purpose, this man seemed to be deliberately taking his time, watching people, and occasionally stopping to chat with street musicians or buy something from vendors. As the man approached Isabella's corner, she noticed that he slowed down even more and seemed to be studying her situation carefully. She had learned to read people's expressions and body language during her time on the streets, and something about this man's demeanor suggested genuine interest rather than the mixture of pity and discomfort that characterized most people's reactions to her presence. When he stopped directly in front of her, Isabella looked up and offered her standard polite request. "Buenas noches, señor. If you could spare some change, I would be very grateful. If not, may God bless you anyway." The man smiled warmly and knelt down so that he was at eye level with Isabella, a gesture that immediately set him apart from the vast majority of people who either ignored her completely or acknowledged her without making eye contact. "Buenas noches, señora. What's your name?" Isabella was surprised by the question, as most people who helped her did so quickly and anonymously. "My name is Isabella, señor. Isabella Martinez." The man extended his hand in a gesture of genuine respect. "It's very nice to meet you, Isabella. I'm Cristiano. How long have you been here tonight?" Isabella shook his hand, noting the calloused fingers that suggested he was someone who worked with his hands despite his obviously expensive clothing. "I've been here since about 5 o'clock, Cristiano. It's been a quiet evening. Not many people are feeling generous today." Cristiano nodded thoughtfully. "Isabella, can I ask you something personal? How long have you been living on the streets?" Isabella studied his face, trying to determine his motivations for asking such a question. Most people avoided personal details about her situation, preferring to give or not give, without learning about the circumstances that had led to her homelessness. However, something about Cristiano's tone and expression suggested genuine concern rather than idle curiosity. "About 2 years now, senor. I lost my job when the factory closed, and after that everything just fell apart. But I'm not asking for pity, just a little help to get by." Cristiano's expression grew serious. "What kind of work did you do before?" Isabella straightened her shoulders with visible pride. "I was a seamstress for 23 years. I was very good at my job. I could alter any garment perfectly and create custom pieces from scratch. I loved the work, and my supervisors always said I had the best attention to detail in the entire factory." As Isabella talked about her former career, Cristiano could see the intelligence and skill behind her current circumstances. "Isabella, That sounds like skilled, valuable work. Have you been able to find similar employment since the factory closed? Isabella's expression became sad but resigned. I've tried, senor, but most companies want younger workers, and the few that might hire someone my age require an address, references, and appropriate interview clothing. When you're living on the streets, it's almost impossible to present yourself as a reliable employee, even if you have the skills they need. Cristiano listened intently to Isabella's explanation, understanding the cruel cycle that trapped people in homelessness even when they possessed valuable skills and a strong work ethic. Isabella, what would you need to get back into seamstress work? Isabella looked at him with surprise, not expecting such a practical question. Well, I would need a place to live so I could have an address for applications, some decent clothes for interviews, and probably some updated training since sewing techniques and equipment have changed in the past few years. But, senor, these are expensive things, and I don't want to burden you with my problems. Cristiano smiled reassuringly. You're not burdening me, Isabella. I'm asking because I might be able to help with some of these things. Would you be interested in getting back into seamstress work if the right opportunity came along? Isabella's eyes filled with tears of hope mixed with disbelief. Signor Cristiano, that's been my dream for 2 years. I would give anything to be able to work again and live with dignity. But I don't understand why you would want to help someone like me. Cristiano reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out his wallet, but instead of just giving Isabella money, he removed a business card and handed it to her. Isabella, tomorrow morning I want you to go to this address. Ask for Maria Santos and tell her that Cristiano sent you. She runs a small tailoring business and has been looking for an experienced seamstress to help with custom work. Isabella looked at the business card with trembling hands, reading the address of what appeared to be an upscale tailoring shop in one of Madrid's better neighborhoods. Senor, I don't understand. Do you know this woman? Will she really consider hiring someone in my situation? Cristiano nodded. Maria is a friend of mine, and I've already spoken to her about finding someone with your experience and skills. She doesn't care about your current living situation. She cares about your ability to do excellent work. The job includes a signing bonus that will help you get back on your feet, and Maria has connections with affordable housing programs that can help you find a place to live. Isabella stared at Cristiano in amazement, unable to believe that a chance encounter with a stranger could potentially change her entire life. But why would you do this for someone you don't even know? I haven't told you my story or asked for this kind of help. Cristiano's response was simple but profound. Isabella, everyone deserves a chance to use their talents and live with dignity. You have skills that are valuable, and you've been trapped in a situation that prevents you from using them. If I can help break that cycle, then we both benefit. You get your life back, and society gets to benefit from your talents again. As they continued talking, Isabella realized that there was something familiar about Cristiano's face, though she couldn't quite place where she might have seen him before. His accent suggested he wasn't originally from Madrid, and his casual confidence indicated he was probably successful in whatever field he worked in. However, she was so focused on the incredible opportunity he was offering that she didn't spend much time trying to identify him. Cristiano reached into his wallet again and handed Isabella several €100 in cash. This should help you get cleaned up, buy appropriate clothes for your job interview, and cover your expenses for the next week or two until you start earning money again. Isabella's hands shook as she accepted the money, more cash than she had seen in months. Signor Cristiano, this is more than generous. How can I ever repay you for this kindness? Cristiano stood up and prepared to continue his walk through the plaza. Isabella, you don't owe me anything. Just succeed in your new job and remember this moment when you have the opportunity to help someone else who's struggling. That's how kindness continues in the world. As Cristiano walked away, Isabella sat in stunned silence, holding the business card and cash while trying to process what had just happened. She had approached the evening expecting at best to collect enough small change to buy a meal, and instead she had received what appeared to be a complete life transformation from a stranger who asked for nothing in return. The next morning, Isabella used some of Cristiano's money to get cleaned up at a public facility, bought decent clothing from a second-hand shop, and made her way to the address on the business card. Maria Santos, the owner of the tailoring business, greeted her warmly and immediately put her to work on a test piece to evaluate her skills. Within an hour, Maria was convinced that Isabella was exactly the experienced seamstress she had been searching for. "Isabella, your work is exceptional," Maria said after examining the test alteration. "Cristiano told me you were, but this level of craftsmanship is rare. I'd like to offer you a full-time position starting immediately with a signing bonus of €2,000 to help you get settled." Isabella accepted the job with tears of gratitude, and within a week she had found a small apartment through one of Maria's housing contacts. The transformation from homeless street beggar to employed seamstress happened so quickly that Isabella sometimes wondered if it had all been a dream. However, the steady income, comfortable apartment, and satisfaction of using her skills again were very real. Several months later, while watching television in her new apartment, Isabella saw a news report about Real Madrid's recent victory, in which Cristiano Ronaldo had scored the winning goal. As the camera focused on Ronaldo's face during his celebration, Isabella suddenly realized that the generous stranger who had changed her life was one of the most famous footballers in the world. She thought back to their conversation on the plaza, remembering how he had treated her with respect and dignity without revealing his identity or seeking any recognition for his generosity. The revelation deepened her appreciation for his character. He could have easily used his fame to draw attention to his charitable act, but instead he had chosen to help her quietly and anonymously. Isabella wrote a letter to Ronaldo through Real Madrid's official channels, expressing her gratitude and updating him on her progress. She described how the job at the tailoring shop had not only provided financial stability, but had also restored her sense of purpose and self-worth. She mentioned that she had been promoted to head seamstress and was training new employees, including other women who had faced employment challenges. In his response, delivered through the same business card contact, Ronaldo wrote, "Isabella, your success is the only thanks I need. You had the skills and determination all along. You just needed an opportunity to show them. I'm proud of how you've rebuilt your life and inspired others to do the same." Years later, Isabella became known in Madrid's garment industry as one of the finest seamstresses in the city, with a waiting list of clients seeking her custom work. She never forgot the evening when a stranger's kindness changed her life, and she regularly contributed to programs that helped homeless individuals find employment and housing. She often told people that the most important lesson from her experience was that everyone deserves to be seen as a human being with dignity and potential, regardless of their current circumstances. Isabella's story became part of the legend surrounding Cristiano Ronaldo's charitable activities, though she always emphasized that his fame was less important than his character. "He could have walked past me like hundreds of other people did," she would say. Instead, he stopped, listened, and saw possibilities where others saw problems. That's what real kindness looks like.